Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon-lit halls of an arcade, with a murderous look in his... Okay, that's not quite it. Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon... Nope. That's not it. Let's try it again. Exterior, Portland Arcade, night. A mysterious man slowly walks through the neon-lit halls of the arcade with a murderous look in his eyes. Yes, that's it! As you can see, music is important. Luckily for you, there's today's sponsor, MusicBed. With MusicBed, you get access to higher quality music than any other music resource. That means instead of thousands of variations on Mumford & Sons instrumentals, except on digital guitars that sound more like synths, actually, side note, who would want to start an electronic Mumford & Sons cover band? Let's talk after the show. Anyways, you get the real stuff that you would listen to in real life. Great musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work. MusicBed even has subscriptions that allow you to have unlimited access to their amazing roster of artists for one monthly or yearly fee, based on what kind of work you do. That's right. So whether you're making wedding videos, streaming a Call of Duty Warzone match, or creating an ad for that beer company that's making seltzers now, MusicBed has a pricing option that's right for you. Seth and I use it, you probably use it, and if you don't, go use coupon code GAMESHOW at checkout to receive your first month free when you purchase an annual subscription and start unlocking your film's full potential.
Cate Blanchett can have some kind of weird family issues involving however she became telepathic, like involving whatever that could cause her to be wanting to find these aliens so badly beyond anything else to where she would betray even her own country to get those aliens, etc. She's like the opposite of what Indy is becoming.
It'd be fun. I like the idea of family.
Yes.
Movies. So
the Fast and the Kingdom of the Crystals.
Fast and the Furious.
Indiana Jones and the Fast and the Furious.
Crystal Skull Drift. I like that.
Kingdom Drift. That's a Christian film.
Kingdom Drift. We're gonna save souls with racing. Hey everybody, he's Seth.
And he's Ryan.
And welcome back to the Writer's Room Game Show. It's the podcast where every week we generate an original feature film idea from scratch in under 60 minutes. Working from a set of random prompts given to us by a big Hollywood studio.
At the beginning of every episode, just like right here, well, in a few minutes, the studio, which is really just an iPhone shortcut, assigns us, the contestants, a new project consisting of 4 components. And Worley, what are those components? They are the genre, the tone, the demographic, and a studio mandate. And a studio mandate, by the way, is basically just a random thing the studio is requiring.
We then have 1 hour to develop a feature film idea that fits the assigned criteria with surprise roadblocks along the way.
Watch out for them surprise roadblocks. At the end of the episode, we'll focus group the idea with someone of the target audience of which we are assigned. Did I get the prepositions right? I don't think I did. And we will ask them actual focus group questions, which will equal up to a perfect 40-point score.
Perfect 40.
If we get that perfect 40, let me tell you guys, we win. And we roll around in money and awards and accolades. I don't get nearly enough accolades. I get plenty of awards, but accolades, the universe is short on accolades for me. Is it accolades? Yeah, it's accolades.
Accolades. We roll around in the awards. They poke us. They prod us. And if we lose, we quit screenwriting altogether. We do it again next week. Seth, happy Friday. How are you doing, my friend?
Happy Friday. I'm so good. It's Spooky Friday because Sunday is Halloween.
And if you're listening to this, it's probably Halloween long time ago because I have no idea when this episode's
Happy Halloween long time ago.
People are in their Thanksgiving best, eating turkey.
Thanksgiving beds, I thought you were going to say. In their Thanksgiving beds, all warm and snug.
Man, what have you been up to, Seth? Anything new in your life?
I don't know, man. What do I talk about on the show? New things.
You're making commercials and writing movies.
Writing movies. Can we talk about a movie? Should we? Let's keep it to us. Let's keep it quiet for now.
Wait, are you implying that Ryan and Seth might be writing a movie that they're planning on making?
We're writing a movie every episode, and that's what's happening right now.
Oh man,
we're like the Office ladies. We might have things going on behind the scenes.
We're gonna be making a new podcast that is recapping the movies that we write.
It's a Writer's Room Game Show flashback podcast. We're going to recap every episode of the Writers Room Game Show.
Like, remember this moment? Oh, that was so fun when we wrote that moment.
And then we'll play clips that will equal more content than the actual show. It's just going to... This is solid, I think. And that show gets more viewers, more listeners than this show does.
Oh, can we talk about... So we talked about on our Writers Room Talk Show episode, which was, I thought was quite the shit show. Some people apparently enjoyed it. But we talked about Office Ladies, and you texted me after the show, and you said, you hate Office Ladies, don't you?
I forgot I did.
Apparently, I was very unenthusiastic about that show. I like it. I'm just not as into it as I was like that Brian Baumgartner's like History of the Office, which like had interviews with everybody, and it was only 6 episodes. I love The Office.
I like Office Ladies. It gives me, it gives me enough, like, because Office, like you probably, The Office is like the thing it's been on in the background for the past like 10 years and like nonstop.
You just like to listen to Office Ladies and sort of reminisce and
well, they do have enough anecdotes in there for me to make me happy. Like they don't like dive deep into stuff, obviously. Another podcast that does this thing, but drives me more crazy. And Office Ladies doesn't drive me crazy in this way for some reason, but the Breaking Bad podcast with Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, and there's a Better Call Saul version too, was hosted by Kelly Dixon, who's the editor of like however many seasons of Breaking Bad. And she was a great host, and they would recap every episode and talk about the behind the scenes of it. It's really great in-depth stuff if you're into those shows. But man, every time they start to get deep, someone like Vince Gilligan or someone would stop them and say, now let's explain to the audience what that means, for in layman's terms. And that's my Vince Gilligan impression that changed accents mid-sentence. Who, by the way,
I hear he was really in the room with us.
Yeah, it's always like that. He's a genius and apparently a huge sweetheart from what I understand. So like, I'm not speaking ill of him, just that they would stop the conversation to then try and explain things that I felt were intuitive, even to someone who's never made a movie before. And it was frustrating. Office Ladies doesn't do that. I get why. It's a little fluffy at times. And I feel like you want that juicy stuff, that juicy. Yeah, the juice. You want the juice, the office juice.
Oh, man. Well, Seth, we're here. We haven't got our assignment yet. I texted you this week because some of my close friends have been asking me to share online about my experience. I think Eric Jacobus talked about it in his episode of my concussion.
Yeah, speaking of juice, brain juice. And I don't know how to get there. I don't know how this hasn't come up. In fact, I've thought about bringing it up at times on the podcast, but it's felt, I didn't know if it was an invasion of privacy and you wanted to talk about it or not.
It's a very cinematic moment in my life that happened a few months ago.
It's unreal. Please tell.
So I share this story before we story tell ourselves on this podcast. As some of you may know, my daughter was born in July, which is a very happy moment.
Sorry, I was drinking water. I meant to make a celebratory sound.
His daughter was born. Moments before she was born, though, is when the incident happened. My lovely wife is there giving birth. She's starting to push, and the nurse grabs her leg. She's like, "Hey, Dad, you're gonna grab her leg. Just support her." I'm like, "I got this." And so she's pushing. The nurse says something along the lines of, "Oh my gosh, you can see the head." And so, of course, I'm curious. I look down I see a lot of stuff down there.
Yeah.
At which moment I told the nurse and my wife, "Oh man, I'm feeling a little lightheaded." Cut to flashback, 9th grade biology. We're watching a sex ed video. I'm not even kidding. This didn't happen, but I'm just give some backstory to it.
Wait, what didn't happen? The flashback didn't happen, or this flashback that you're describing? This moment didn't happen.
It's a true story. I didn't actually have the flashback.
You're like, all right, now none of this I'm about to say happened. It's the best disclaimer.
But I didn't have a flashback.
The following is not based on a true story at all.
But it is a true story. 9th grade biology, innocent little Ryan Polly sitting.
I think you had the mustache. You looked exactly the same. It was like Pen 15.
That is incredible. But we're watching a sex ed video. It's animated. These little animated sperm going into animated eggs. For some reason,
we're gonna have to give this episode the E.
I had the same feeling. I fainted. I woke
up. Animated?
Yes, I know.
So I'm saying this quietly. Animated sperm?
And I wake up.
Animated sperm! Sorry.
looking up the class, laughing at me. I make the walk of shame to the nurse where she gives me, Tylenol and sends me back to class.
You fainted at the animated instrument.
Yes. I don't know what happened, man. Anyways,
okay, do yourself a favor and don't watch Look Who's Talking. That movie is going to mess you up.
Well, the thing is, I've matured, and I told the nurse that actually like moments before when Whitney's like this, he's not great with this, and I'm like, I've matured. Don't worry. Anyways,
I love that you told the nurse I've matured. Was it the same school nurse from school?
That would be incredible poetry, cinematic poetry. But we flash back forward to me, basically on the ground, looking up. I don't know what happened. There's multiple nurses looking at me. And they're like, "Sir, are you okay?" I'm like, "What? Oh no." "Yes, I'm okay. I'm okay." They're like, "You don't look okay. Like, we need to take you to the ER." Meanwhile, Whitney's still.
You're on the ground in the delivery room?
Yes. So apparently
that's not a place you want to end up. Like,
what apparently had happened is I had fainted, and on my way down, my head hit like the siding on the wall really hard. And that's what gave me the concussion. And
so you went like this? You just like.
Straight up.
Did you plank like in movies? Just like plank and fall straight backward?
I have no idea, man. But these nurses, like, they will, of course, and we have the quintessential emergency room scene when I'm looking up on the stretcher and the lights are passing over me.
Yeah.
They take me to the ER, or like this front office at the ER, basically. Everyone's laughing at me. No joke.
What?
They're like, "Oh, you passed out. How was it?" I was like, "Well, she's still giving birth." They're like, "Oh, like she hasn't given birth yet?" I'm like, "No." So they're like, "Okay, how many fingers?" They do the whole thing. "How do you feel?" I'm like,
"How many fingers am I holding up?" And you're like, 7. They're like, all right, go ahead.
But they just basically give me some Tylenol and some snacks and water, and they're like, "Let us know if you have any symptoms."
What hospital is this? How?
And they basically put me in a wheelchair. This nurse like runs me back in a wheelchair. I'm like, I can walk, but she runs me back. Like, it feels like a movie. I make it basically 20 minutes before.
What if it were like this, the nurse, like a dude, and like he's pushing you and he like picks you, like, "We're not going to get there fast enough," and he picks you up and carries you like Terry Crews nurse who's like running, yes, holding you.
And I can walk, but anyways, they're running me. They run me
walk.
back.
By the way, I'm sorry. "I can walk" is one of the funniest lines in human history. I've heard it in other things. I think it's even in something I've made before because it implies that someone is helping someone who doesn't need it. And helping someone walk when they can walk is like, to me, it's such a funny line with so much implication to it. I can walk.
It's usually like when they've got their arm around them, like really help.
Yes. I need to help you walk.
But they run me back. I make it, 20 minutes before Amelie's born. And I just basically sit down the whole time. Like, "You can do this. You're doing great." Anyways, basically,
you got this, babe.
By the time the baby gets here, I feel great. I'm balling. I'm happy. It's incredible. But then the following week, I'm basically like puking the whole time.
Oh,
like, it's not great. Whitney said apparently I was short-tempered a little bit. Like, it was basically like the opposite of Dwight in The Office, where he like becomes really nice. And
that makes sense. Dwight's an unpleasant person and gets a concussion and becomes pleasant. And you were one of the most pleasant people I've ever met in my life. So it makes sense if you have a concussion that you become a monster.
I went to the doctor about a week later, and it was all better. So. Oh, look at that. The timing, Seth.
Man, I hope it must be a concussion story.
Here we go.
Involving walking.
Hello? Oh, hi, studio. Nice to talk to you. Wasn't expecting your call. Yes, you're the only person who called this line. Okay, cool, yeah. I'll let Seth know. You have a great day, too. Okay. Love you. Okay, bye. That was awkward. The studio called, Seth. They've got an assignment for us, and they emailed you.
They did.
Seth at Writers Room Game Show podcast.geocities.com.
Was there an at in there? I guess I didn't hear it.
What did we get? Let's hear it.
All right. Well, we got, our genre is disaster movie.
Ooh, disaster movie, baby.
The tone is, it says goofy.
I like that. Goofy disaster movie.
The demographic
makes me think of the Goofy title.
A Goofy movie.
A disaster movie. A Goofy disaster.
A Goofy disaster movie. Schindler's Goofy List. Our target audience are fans of character-driven films. Character-driven,
kind of broad. So as opposed to plot-driven.
Disaster, as opposed to I guess. Yeah. So it's a small, intimate disaster film.
We're
goofs.
That's
and Starring Goofy. The mandate, this is a fun one. This is a new mandate category, like wild card, that we haven't gotten yet. We made for season 2, which is time machine. You have accidentally walked into a time machine.
Time machine.
Something that commonly happens. You emerge to find a studio exec begging you to fix one of their movies that is currently in production.
Ooh.
Roll the time machine generator to find out what that movie is.
I love that. So we're rolling. Are you rolling it?
I'm going to roll the time machine generator. Here we go. Actually, and the film that we are going to be punching up and revising and doing some rewrites on, and the assumption here is that it's mid-shoot, by the way. They're mid-shoot or mid-pre-production. Like they built
Like they're
some
about
sets.
to start shooting.
They're about to start shooting. And this exec is coming to us. This is Kathleen Kennedy coming to us and saying, "We need help, Seth." This happens all the time. She says it to me every day. "We need help. I'm Kathleen Kennedy and you're Seth Worley, and we know each other and work together, and I admire your work."
And she says, "George and Ryan have been talking."
George and Ryan.
Lucas. Yes.
And Ryan.
Polly.
So-
George talks to me.
hang on,
Kathleen Kennedy talks to
Okay,
me.
so she's coming to me. You've been here already. I came out of the time machine.
I've been waiting for you. Yeah.
Oh, you came in the time machine early. You've been
Just to
talking
talk
to George ahead of just to fanboy with him, or like,
Yeah,
are
we've
you
been just
discussing-
shooting this shit.
Okay, unrelated to this project. So this is a surprise to you too. Okay, you're like, I'll just meet you there. So George and Ryan have been talking, not about this. Just thought I'd include that in the conversation. And Steven really, really needs help with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg, sorry. Yes, I
call
forget
him
everyone
Steven.
refers to him his full name. She calls him Steven because, they're pals. They go way back. We have to...
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Fix Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it has to fall under the genre of disaster film, and
Goofy.
it has to be goofy, and it has to be for fans of character-driven films. These are all
The Writer's Room game show has begun.
Boy, has it.
Okay, so it kind of works out that we got Time Machine because we're making a disaster movie out of a movie that was a disaster.
Yeah. Well, and
I know a lot of
have I
people
talked
like-
about this on
I
this
like,
pod?
I like parts of that movie. A
Me
lot.
too. Have we talked about
We
this
have
movie
not.
on this
We've never
podcast?
I don't even think I've talked to you about it in person.
I've talked about it. Okay, I've talked about it on another podcast, on the Defocus podcast. So I might repeat some of my. But you talk to me. Tell me how you feel about Crystal Skull.
People hate on Shia, the mutt. I think his character's name is. I like the idea of bringing in a offspring of Indiana Jones,
Mhm.
and what's her name? The mom from the
Marion.
Raiders. Yeah,
Marion
Marion.
Ravenwood.
I like bringing her back into the fold, and that's
Mhm.
like their child. That, of course, Indy didn't raise him because he's sort of, I don't want to say James Bond type, but he's that like sort of Lone Ranger kind of person, especially with how his relationship with his father was not great. I like that part of the movie.
I like the idea. Yeah, I like the. Sorry, you keep going. I'll tell
Yes.
you.
The idea of the execution wasn't great. That's something that I feel like in a character driven story we can sort of keep that and change it a little bit, because I do like
That's true.
the father and son dynamic. It was Nazis, right? I'm trying to think of
No, rescues. It was Russians.
That's right. I just remember the ants at the end.
Okay. Yeah. Mhm.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember more about this movie, but I remember action sequences were like really, really inventive, but it was like they had this CG, like the ability to do more. And I just think they just went a little over the top with it, just compared to previous films that felt very practical and felt very lived in. And even like the stunts and everything was very realistic to an extent. I would say so. Where it's like Mutt swinging through the jungle with monkeys and
Yeah.
these giant ants and like all this stuff that I'm like, that's the stuff that didn't do it for me. I was fine with the aliens, to be honest, because I'm like, we had a knight that was living in a cave for thousands of years with magical, goblets. We had Nazi treasure that would melt people's face. Like, aliens aren't that far fetched. It was just like
It was already a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, and it was obviously an ode to 50s alien movies.
That's the thing.
movie
Is
kind of
that? I don't want to cut you off before I.
No,
dive
that's all I
into
got.
my- So I agree with you. Character stuff first. Well, actually, let's start with big picture, like genre stuff first. For me, I actually loved, and it was, from what I understand, it was Lucas's idea. They would age the story with Harrison so that it would with the characters. So it would take place in whatever time period he would be the age.
Which it sounds like they're doing that with the new one as well.
It does, and it's Mangold, so it's going to be a little more gritty, but I think also a little I don't know, a little pickier with what he lets through on the screen. You know what I mean? Big picture, I loved the idea that once you age up the story, it lands in the 50s or 60s, and therefore the movie that was like the pulpy genre of that time, whereas like in the original, when Indiana Jones took place, the pulpy period of like the pulpy fiction of that time was like these Saturday morning serials and these adventure serials. Totally. In the 50s and 60s, it was a B movie, like an alien sci-fi B movie. I love that. I think that was such a cool idea. And from what I understand, this is what I've read. Spielberg and Harrison Ford did not agree with that and didn't love that direction.
It was George's idea.
And, we hear that dude's got a lot of ideas that, people don't go crazy about, but that's the origin of Star Wars. He created the character
and he was, I don't know.
They have some agreement to where they won't do anything unless all three of them agree on it. Like, at least they did. I think that anything about it with the aliens that don't work is because they didn't go hard enough with it. Like, the fact that the solution to it was to make it some alternate, like parallel universe, like it was an alien from another universe, not from space. Like that made it weird and like kind of confusing.
I don't even
and muddled.
remember that at all.
And the fact that it wasn't from space, like, and that it just felt like it was going middle ground and half-ass with the alien and B movie stuff. I would have loved to have seen that pushed way more. But like, because like think about it. It's got aliens, it's got killer ants, which I'm sorry, on paper is fantastic. And I'm all for, so I'm keeping the ants. And it has telepathic mind reading Russians. Like, I'm sorry, this is a cool movie on paper, like a really cool movie on paper. The opening is going to take place at Area 51 in the warehouse where the Ark is, even though like it was just broadcast like crazy with the Ark was there. Still like such a cool, inventive. And the fact that like they fight and they fall through the glass and onto that rocket sled. And I'm a huge nerd for that era, like for the, Los Alamos, New Mexico. Like I was shooting something in New Mexico years ago and we were driving around location scouting and we stumbled upon the city of Los Alamos, like by accident. And it's still fascinating. You have to go through like a security checkpoint to get into the city. And it's like, everything is like atomic themed and like the mascots of the high school. And they've
got refrigerators everywhere.
From just scientists rescuing themselves. I actually like the refrigerator gag, even though obviously it's not.
I think it's really inventive and interesting to have a like nuclear test site that looks like your classic suburban, neighborhood, and then you're like, oh no, it's about to get nuked, and the only like for him to be smart enough to jump in the lead refrigerator because he knows that's going to protect him. Now, him surviving it getting blasted a mile away.
I want to know how we can get away with the fridge thing, because the fridge thing I actually love. If maybe he just gets straight up hospitalized. It's like maybe that thing we make it to where that thing barely gets out and it like slowly opens and he like can't even move and they find him
hard cut to
hospital. Maybe that sells it, right? So the other stuff that I love, I feel overall like character-wise, I love bringing back Marion. I don't love that they did nothing with her. She had nothing to do at all. She's such a fantastic character.
You're making me want to rewatch this because it's probably been 10 years since I've seen this movie.
It's like, dude, it's this movie that like in execution just feels like so like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, like over the course of too many years, like poking and prodding and moving things around. It's just inconsistent. And it's one of those movies that like you can't figure out what it's about. It just changes stories so many times. Like Indy gets like fired because people think he's a communist. Like the FBI thinks he's a communist, and the FBI never shows up again in the story like ever again.
I don't remember any of that.
And the other thing is like execution wise, I don't know if it's the filmmakers like age that they're at or what it is, but like, or the point they're at in their careers, but everything about it feels too comfortable. Like the original three, you watch that and that looks like an uncomfortable shoot. That looks like a dusty, sweaty movie where everyone is getting some kind of gastrointestinal disease, food poisoning. Like, it just looks uncomfortable to make. And it
looks so clean, the new one. And so
it looks so clean. And even from a coverage standpoint, like it feels like everything's like at eye level and like it feels like everything's like on a stage. And the ants scene, for example, like the ants feel totally controlled. It feels like everyone, like it feels like everything was shot in a controlled environment, which is good. We prefer people be safe and alive.
There's way you can make it look a little bit more like if it's a part of the same. We should probably start talking about story, but I'm sure it's going to be integral to the story. But the new Matrix trailer, how clean and digital and like different it looks from the original trilogy. Yeah, I felt similarly to that when I saw the trailer. I'm sure it's going to have something to do with the story, the look of it. But I totally agree with you for Indy. Let's talk about how we're about 10 minutes in now. Now that we've talked about what we like. And
we talked about what we like and
so what would be your big, would you want to change? You know this movie a lot better than me, so that's why I'm asking. Would you want to keep the core idea of...
Oh, the score also rules, by the way. Sorry. John Williams' score rules.
That's not surprising. Would you want to keep I think we should keep the core idea of the aliens, just since that's so integral to the... Yeah. Like, maybe we lean a little bit more into the 50s, alien, kind of thing. Yeah. But maybe Reef as a character, I forgot that we need to make this a Goofy disaster movie as well. So that might actually make sense to do a B movie, alien movie, if it's a Goofy.
I think so. And I think if we find a way to shoot it in a way that Mangold's probably doing, that where it feels like the old ones and it feels like grounded and real and like rough around the edges.
And we cast Waller-Bridge in our movie.
Man, do you think she's his daughter? I don't know. I wonder what they're doing there. I wonder.
Yeah, but I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too. I happen to, because I created that Indiana Jones title generator and created that Twitter account. A bunch of Indiana Jones accounts started following it, and I just started clicking on them. And turns out there's all these set photos that have been like found, or like from the new one I hadn't been keeping up with, and it looks like everyone looks really good in their costume, like in their wardrobe and stuff. It's exciting.
She's Indianapolis Jones, daughter.
No, what did he say? Spielberg said that dumb thing in press where he was like, if it was a girl, we'd have to name her Indiana Jane. And the internet was like, that's not how last names work, Steven.
So dumb.
I know, it's such a dad joke. Like, we love Steven Spielberg. 500% if you can't tell. So
even if you want to come on our show, just call 1-8.
What if he did? What if Steven Spielberg called 1-866 HEY-WRGS and said, hey boys, I want to be on your show. I'm Steven Spielberg. This is my voice. I don't know why I'm doing bad voices today.
Always make a joke that I'm calling Steven. Like, I always just say Steven. Yeah, I got Steven on the line just to see what my coworkers say.
It's just your friend, like Steven Wilson Bradshaw. Everyone assumes that layman's like just random pedestrians.
Yeah, I mean,
here's the deal. Here's what we have. We have Shia LaBeouf. We have all the cast. Everybody's cast.
Oh yeah, I forget the concept of the time machine. So we're about to shoot, and they're doing rewrites.
So why don't we look at the structure of the current one and see if we can figure out how to better it with the things that we currently have. So from memory, we open on a dusty terrain. Like, what if I go that in detail? New Mexico, Area 51.
I'm pulling up the Indiana Jones wiki right now.
Actually, really badass intro to him. That like these cars, this motorcade pull up into at this military base. Pull in. They shoot a bunch of guys. It's clear that they're Russians. They open the trunk, pull out somebody, throw him on the ground, and Indy's hat falls out. Indy gets up, puts his hat on, and says, "Russians." It's just exposition right out the gate. So I like this character introduction.
That's great.
Mac is then introduced. Who's what's his name? Sexy Beast. What's his name?
I don't remember any of this.
You don't remember? Man, Ray Winstone? Is that his name?
George Mac McHale. Yes, Ray Winstone. You're correct.
Yeah. So he's Mac.
Yes. Yeah. Doesn't he betray him?
Yeah. So he betrays him several times. He's the shape-shifting character in this, but we don't have any backstory to who he is. There's no I don't want to get too gritty, but let's put down that like Mac is someone who I think all the characters could use some more unifying, like together. Like they could just feel like they're more part of the same story. They all feel like they're from different scripts.
I'm gonna need to watch this movie
before we finish this episode.
We finish this episode.
Break for watching. Okay, here's the overall plot as they currently have it. Yeah. Unless you think this won't be helpful.
No. That's
just a refresher. This is essentially the plot of the film: is that Indy, while on some routine dig in Nevada or wherever they are, like wherever that base is, the Russians kidnap him, take him to this military base, and ask him to locate this crate where an artifact that he has experience with is. And he explains later this artifact he had actually helped he saw or dug up. It's explained at some point that he was brought out with the several other experts to some crash site to analyze this like body or these remains that were there, and was told never to speak of it again, et cetera. It's implied that it was like an alien ship that crashed. And so essentially the Russians want whatever that body or remains or whatever was found at that crash site is hidden here, is stored here at this facility. And they want his help to find it. He says he's never been here, but he knows that the contents were magnetic. By the way, super cool. The contents were not kidding. The contents were magnetic. So even though this isn't how magnets work, he asked for a shell, some kind of metal, like whatever gun related substance, throws it in the air, and it sifts through the air toward the magnetic thing, which I'm sorry, super cool. They all find it. All of their like metal, like badges and guns and stuff are all like being pulled toward this magnetic like crate. Open it up. She cuts it open with this really cool art designed like plastic shell that it's in. Smoke comes out.
Are we still in the first scene?
Yeah. And she, pulls out this, basically in it is this alien body, like these alien remains. And then Indy grabs his whip from somebody and manages to get the something on him. And he escapes with the whole fight scene, etc. Mac turns on him at some point in there, who's the guy who was digging with him. I got too nitty gritty. Sorry. So he manages to like escape this facility. God, I got to pull back into the plot. The plot is the Russians force him to find this object that he apparently has history with. And because he helped the Russians at their insistence, the FBI insists that he might be a communist. He might be working with the Russians, might be a spy. And so he returns back to school and is promptly fired or let go from his job as a professor. And so he decides he's going. So once he's fired,
does the nuke happen before that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to plot. So yeah, the nuke happened the nuke was part of the whole opening, like the escaping the facility.
Yeah, that's right.
So because of everything that happened in the facility, he got pegged a communist and fired from his job and ostracized, alienated. And then this is one of those situations where that event doesn't cause the next event. The next event just happens simultaneously, which is, I think, a first hiccup in like storytelling rules. Like Mutt then shows up while Indy's just leaving town, not really going anywhere specific. Mutt shows up, tells him that his stepfather, Harold Oxley, played by John Hurt, has gone missing, and he needs his help to find him. So he helps this kid, Mutt. The Russians turned out followed Mutt there, and because they're also looking for whatever they're looking for, Oxley's looking for. It's a little unclear. So he and Mutt go out. They escape the Russians there at the school. They go.
What's your name, kid? Mutt.
That does happen. Yes. Which, by the way, if you haven't picked up on it yet, Indy was named after Lucas's dog. Henry was named after, Marion was named after someone's dog. All the main characters have all been named after people's dogs.
Funny. I never knew that.
So they then go to South America trying to find Oxley. They find where Peru. Thank you. They're following Oxley's like foot trails. Essentially, he went and found this alien skull, this crystal skull, in this tomb near this explorer's remains, where this explorer was looking for it. But then Oxley returned it, or the explorer did. Somebody returned it. That's when the Russians catch up with them. Turns out they're trying to return all of the crystal skulls to their original point in South America somewhere. And so the Russians capture them and force them to go with them. It's unclear what's going on there. They escape the Russians, go to where they were going with the Russians anyway. They encounter some ants along the way, along with that really cool giant saw blade thing that cuts down trees, even though once they destroy it, the roads should stop, but the roads keep going in the jungle. This whole episode is going to be me recapping Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Anyway, they get to the place where the skulls were found. They return the skulls, and then they get out of there because Cate Blanchett is like, I want to know everything to the aliens. And then they melt her, and then they get married. And and they find out at some point, Marion is with the Russians. Also, Oxley was married to Marion. She was married to Oxley, who they were looking for. So she gets melted.
or she gets killed by the aliens? I thought she was killed by ants.
No. She's killed by aliens. She's Spalko, but her muscle guy is killed by the ants.
That's right.
I think he's a UFC fighter or something like that. Igor Zhizhkine. He's Dovchenko.
They return the skull to the alien skeleton, right? And then it like causes
it. Well, it's a room full of alien skeletons that are all crystal all around them, and they all like it combined into one. And
That's right.
like, yeah, where that was, I felt kind of like, all on the previs team to come up with that.
It was a cool. I mean, that it feels very Indiana Jones. I'm remembering now, like it's always like this one final room where they're doing this, whether it's taking the goblet, like Jesus's cup or whatever.
Yeah.
Or placing the
Holy Grail and the Sankara stones.
All that stuff. Feels very much Indiana Jones.
So here's my thought: the reason that that third act is so boring is because there's no stakes and there's no character stuff happening. In Last Crusade, Donovan shoots his dad in the stomach and says, "You got to find the Grail to save your dad." Like there are stakes. And Temple of Doom, they're rescuing a bunch of enslaved kids. Like in this one, I feel like what I want to see is, you got on this. You pointed this out great earlier, that the idea of reversing the father-son dynamic and putting Indy in the Sean Connery role, it was a fun idea that didn't happen. And it was like played a little bit like, you play it too loose, kid. You're too crazy and wild, Shia LaBeouf. And I'm your dad, Indiana Jones.
He has heroic moments, but Indy is still like the true hero.
So why don't we shoot Indy? Or like, why don't we find a way to do the Last Crusade dynamic, but Mutt has to be the one to save him.
We're goofy, so we need to have those monkeys be a part of this.
Oh my God, those monkeys.
No, I like that a lot. I think shifting it and making it, strengthening the story between father and son and making it, I know at the end of the movie, doesn't it sort of in there like a nod to like maybe Shia will take the hat. Or
he goes to put the hat on and then Indy takes it and then keeps walking out of the church, out of the Burbank church that they're in.
Yeah.
But which I think might be the same church that, this is not important, but Phyllis and Bob Vance got married in.
No way. That's funny.
I think so. I think so. I guess it's like, what do we want? What do we want to keep from the movie, and what do we want? How can we kind of unify all of these loose points to make it feel more character driven and cohesive? Yeah.
We're punching this thing up right now. This is the rewriter's room game show.
Punch up edition. So what are we punching? We need to make it more character driven. So I think we need to hone in on whatever
honing in on making Miriam more of giving her role more meat to it. And I mean, I think honestly, the Russians are sort of the main antagonists, but if we're making this a disaster movie, I'm wondering if we make sort of the antagonists more like aliens or like a looming threat or something where we can cut the human, well, maybe not cut the human antagonists, but like making it more disaster movie to fit our genre, which is more like humans versus environment and humans versus nature or, whatever it is. Cause I'm wondering because we're rewriting it, but we're also fitting it into a new tone and genre. If that makes sense.
We'll find the tone. I think tone is an execution, but I think that character driven is the most important part because that's our target audience. And I think it's also what this movie could stand to have more of. I wonder if like family is a theme we hone in on.
Maybe I'm just not that interested in the Russian threat at all.
You're right. Like the Russian threat, one thing that we have Cate Blanchett and she's playing a telepathic Russian, Russian spy, like whatever. Like she's got to play that role and we need to give her more like mind reading and we need to give her more like let's give her these abilities. Let's have her also be a little bit more scarred let's make her more like Wanda. She was made like telepathic, but from some, creepy Castle Wolfenstein-esque experiments. Let's make her scarred and let's make her scarred in a way. So family. Our theme should be family. All we got to do is tie these characters into that theme somehow, whether it be their relationship to the story or the relationship to our main characters. And I say family because we talking about that reversing that father-son dynamic, but we got to bring Marion in. So why don't we make it about that unit of three and why the journey for Indy is about moving from the opposite of family, from being a lone wolf, alone, whatever, which I think we could play out with Mac. We can show having your loose relationships scattered about with no one you really commit to can bite you in the ass in some ways because you make shitty friends like George Maccabee, whatever his name is, Macbeth Johnson and
Macaroni.
macaroni. And then we bring him to a place of like family. And Kate Blanchett can have some kind of weird family issues involving however she became telepathic, like involving whatever that could cause her to be wanting to find these aliens so badly beyond anything else, to where she would betray even her own country to get those aliens, etc. She's like the opposite of what Indy is becoming.
Be fun. I like the idea of family.
Yes.
Movies. So
the Fast and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Fast and the Furious.
Indiana Jones and the Fast and the Furious.
Crystal Skull Drift. Yeah. No, I like that.
Kingdom
I like
Drift. That's a Christian film.
Kingdom Drift. We're going to save souls with racing.
I love this episode is going to be called Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Just straight up the same title.
Yeah.
Totally.
Unless they had other titles, Indiana Jones and the Destroyer of Worlds, which I thought was pretty cool. I think we should call it that.
Alternate titles.
Because that was an original title for it that they didn't go with. But she quotes Oppenheimer in it. Dude, it's so funny we're talking about this. I recorded VFX and Chill earlier today for Death Becomes Her, and I kept wanting to make an Oppenheimer joke about I Am Become Death, Destroyer of Worlds, because it's similar to what becomes, or just the word become. Anyway, I think Destroyer of Worlds, because
just Indiana Jones and the Destroyer of Worlds. I'm done.
Hey, it's me, Seth. You probably know or assume that Polly and I are more than just podcast hosts. We're friends, but as you probably suspected, we're also more than friends. We're writers and directors who make money writing and directing commercials and branded shorts and stuff. When you do this stuff for years on years, you develop your own habits and workflows for streamlining the work. And on occasion, a random townsperson will happen to notice these habits, and they'll say, "Hey pal, just what the hell do you think you're doing?" And you explain, "Well, this is just how I plan a shot list," or "This is how I outline a story," or "This is how I dispose of a body." For years, whenever I talk about my story outlining process, where I visualize a story on a clock and use symmetry to fill in gaps and organically find a structure, people would see this and kind of freak out over it. So in 2017, I launched a Kickstarter with my friends Ann Fogerty and Micah Lanier to make the Story Clock Notebook based on that Story Clock process. And people freaked out over that enough for us to start a company called Plot Devices, where we continue to make and sell notebooks and workbooks based on my own workflows and process as a writer and director, from story clocking and outlining to shot listing and storyboarding. I am told by randos everywhere that these products have helped make writing way less daunting and intimidating for them in their own work. So head over to plotdevices.co and learn about how you can have less money and more Plot Devices products. Use coupon code GAMESHOW to get 20% off your first order. I've talked too much. You talk now.
It's hard because I've seen this movie maybe one and a half times.
Really?
Yes. I've seen all of the other Indiana Jones movies tons of times, and this one I barely know. So this pitch, it's probably going to be mostly you, unless we can come up with some original.
No.
All
Right, start talking. You have to talk. I'm not allowed to talk for how long we have.
So we have about 16 minutes left. So
what?
Yes, 17 minutes.
Phew, that's better.
You've been talking about this story for a long time.
I'm sorry, man. Oh my gosh.
This is great because the listeners are going to be, if they don't know the movie well either, they can be educated a little bit from you.
Oh, good. That's the education they need.
Well, so they know our story better. Honestly, I feel like the intro we can keep pretty similar. I think just when having Mutt's introduction be more, have a little bit more weight to it, whereas not just showing up in Connecticut at this, it's at a school, right? Like outside the college, or I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's it's called Marshall College after Frank Marshall, but it's basically like, I think it's Harvard, essentially.
Yeah. But introducing Mutt and making him a little bit. I like the idea of him, because does he immediately introduce himself as Marion's daughter, or like his element?
No, I think he doesn't. That's saved as like a surprise, quote unquote. I think he doesn't know that there's significance, that they know each other.
So
he just Oxley is led him there.
But he wants to. What is his? Sorry, I don't remember anything for this movie.
I'll re-explain the whole thing again.
Why is Indiana important to him? Like, why is Henry?
Oxley? Apparently, Indy knew Oxley really well and knew they either were searching for this thing together, or it's like, I don't remember.
Because I think it's just like making that more like the connection more important to make them sort of more tag team, and because it's sort of like this, I guess it's a fun relationship, him being Indiana just feeling like this guy's won't get off his, he's just this annoying young kid who is acting like he's cooler than me, but I'm Indiana Jones.
He approaches him and says, notifying that Jones, this is the Wikipedia page, Jones' former colleague, Professor Harold Oxley, found a crystal skull in Peru, but has since been kidnapped along with his mother, Mary, who went after him. Jones tells Mutt of the legend of crystal skulls found in Akator, and Mutt gives Jones a letter from his mother, which contains a riddle from Oxley in his ancient language, and that gets them going. I feel like
Peru, they go through caverns and all this stuff, whatever. But yeah, I'm trying to think of how to strengthen that relationship a little bit more. I don't know if it's revealing that he's his son sooner and having them sort of deal with that as they go.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm your son, and my mom has been kidnapped. Like my mom, Marion, has been kidnapped,
and
right?
That's the reason. Yeah, like to me, that is a little bit more interesting than the weird surprise. But it's already been revealed in trailers that why doesn't he know him? Why don't we just straight up do like? Because what's great, he never talked about his dad before, but then he in the beginning of Last Crusade, he's like, your father's in trouble, and he's like, my father, and we're interested in that. So like, why don't we they have a bad relationship, just like Indy did with Senior.
So what if there's Jim Broadbent kind of replaces Marcus, not the character. He doesn't actually play Marcus, but he replaces that role.
Essentially the same thing. Yeah.
And there's a line where that sounds like it's setting up the theme of the movie, but it just forgets that that's what it's setting up, which is we reach that point in our life where life stops giving us things and starts taking. We've reached the age where life stops giving us things and starts taking them away. And then the surprise is that life suddenly gives him, a son and a family later on. So like in that moment where he says something like that, there can even be a mention of like, if you talk to, I don't know, like there can be alluded that, his son shows up and he's like, I'm not supposed to talk to you. Like your mom and I have an agreement, like yada, 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 yada. I'm Indiana Jones. And he's like, yeah, well, the agreement's out the window because my mom, she's missing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, it's just more interesting to me. And then we get to sort of deal with their relationship and the fallout that's maybe happened over the past, decade or so, and then them having to rekindle that relationship through finding Marion. And then you also, I still like Indy and Marion sort of getting back together as well, and maybe Mutt can be part of that. And like, it's like this sweet, like this family rekindling their relationship.
The quest is to save Marion, but he and his son don't get along. They already know their father and son already, right? So they already have this it's kind of a fight over who knows the other better and who has I want them to grate on each other's nerves and have I want and maybe tension between the two of them.
Like Marion raises Mutt, because wasn't he raised by someone else?
No, he was raised by Marion, but with Harold Oxley. Harold Oxley and Marion raised him.
That's right. I'm slowly remembering.
Did you see this movie? Have you seen Indiana Jones: The Kingdom of the? I'm just kidding. There's no way anyone else remembers as much about this movie as I do.
But yeah, no, I like that a lot, and it just interesting stuff to mind there. And we can keep a similar sort of plot, but we're making it more about the relationship and
it's more intentional.
Yeah, and especially if Indiana is injured near the end of the movie, and Mutt has to step it up and sort of become quote unquote the new Indiana Jones.
If we do a Green Goblin and we you can only save one of them, are you going to save Marion or are you going to save Mutt?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Because now he's bonded with Mutt to the point that
Indy at the end.
Indy has to. Yeah. So Indy has to decide we give him some Sophie's Choice situation, right?
Terrible in the best way is what I mean.
Yeah, and it's exploiting that he's now by the time we get to that point in the movie, he's built this roof. Because one thing I remember feeling in Act 3 was they're going to kill Marion.
At the same time, they're being threatened, but there's also a looming sort of alien, everything's coming to a T in this one moment. Where the other mission that they've been set on, which is to recover or all the alien stuff basically, is also happening in the same moment. He has to choose family over, this other mission, I think is interesting.
Yeah. And I think that, so whereas what he's been doing is he's chosen I want this freer life of freedom and solitude, and going out and finding, dude loves digging up artifacts. And there's a certain amount of I haven't found this yet. I want to find this. What if I found this? There's a certain amount of aspiration, and ambition there that can I mean, look, any kind of ambition, like career ambition, can also like it's hard to balance family and career ambition at the same time. And so someone who chooses that career ambition over family time and time again, maybe we can play, I think I mentioned this earlier, but we can play that out in this character Spalko, which is the Kate Blanchett's character, to where perhaps, even though we don't care if she's loyal to the Russians or not, but like the best Indiana Jones and like bad guys are the ones like, I mean, Donovan and Belloc are both these characters who are not loyal to the Nazis, but they're using them to get what they want. And maybe she wants this like knowledge and power, and like basically the aliens are somebody who are on the same wavelength as her because she's telepathic, they're telepathic. It's like there's a race that like she feels that are finally equal because she feels she's superior to everyone else, right? So perhaps it's that she's loyal to no one and seeking that. It's the opposite of what Indy kind of becomes, where he's like, instead of being aspirational and ambitious, he's choosing loyalty and family.
Yeah, that's good.
And we just say we're going to play that out more in the character, in everything, that the choices that are made and the dynamics that are, and we're going to put the ants in a contained space.
Yes,
no joke. That's the other thing.
It's got to be goofy too, so we got to have some sort of fun. We
got Shia LaBeouf. Dude for the longest time was one of the funniest natural like VFX actors.
Even Stevens is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Dude, it's so good. He's so good in that show, and it's like, let's just have him play up. Yeah, it's going to be goofy. We're playing up the relationship.
More like Lewis Stevens.
Well, yeah, not really. We probably can't do that. But I think honestly, we talked about the fact the movie is now like a buddy comedy between father and son.
Yeah, totally.
Already we're going to have more comedy, and it's character based.
Here's my idea too for their introduction. Instead of them meeting at the school, we have our first scene in Nevada ending with the nuke going off, the fridge getting blasted away. It's goofy, whatever. And then the fridge opening up, once it's on the ground, and he's like, contorted, like he's got a broken arm, broken leg. He's like, whatever. Hard cut to the hospital. He's there by himself in a hospital room. Mutt walks in and
boom. That's so good. That's exactly what I was going to say.
And he's like, here again, like here in the hospital again or whatever. We sort of like, no, it's like the only time that they are meeting is when Indy has no one to turn to when he's, hurt or whatever. And, the only people that he's has a semblance of a relationship with is his family, who he chooses his job over them constantly. And he's always, put in this situation. But,
because he has friends scattered all over the world, but they all have their own lives, right? He doesn't have any,
and they're similar to him in that they're friends that he makes along his his journey as an.
But like Sala has like 1 million kids, right? Like
that's true.
And like everybody has their roots. He's friends with all these people who have roots, and so it makes sense that they aren't all going to be at the hospital waiting for him. Like that, I don't know. They're not all standing in a group like together.
We also have him telling Indy that he hasn't seen mom in a while or something. Like maybe he doesn't know immediately that she's been kidnapped. Maybe it's just been like a few days.
I think not. That feels kind of consequent. That feels like a coincidental. I actually think I like your idea of him going to the hospital. And what if you get like this montage of him alone, like being alone in the hospital, having a few visitors, whatever, but at the end of the day, being alone. And then it was like it's
a long recovery because it's like
it's got to be. Yeah. And then you have Mutt show up. Because, dude, I love it if you see that fridge land and it doesn't open up, and you do that same shot and it's creeping toward and it doesn't open, and you start to hear sirens, and then you cut to him like
sirens,
right?
coming towards a nuclear site.
Yeah, naturally. And then you see him and then you see him waking up in the hospital, and you have this little montage of no one really being there. And then Mutt shows up because he needs he gets home and Mutt's there.
Yeah, maybe that. I kind of like it in the hospital room, actually.
Okay.
Because to me, it's like, if it's like urgent too, like he's kind of recovered a bit. He's very sad, like Indy in a sad place, And
what if he's like, I'll drive him home, but he has a motorcycle, not a car. So like Indy, who's injured, has to get on the motorcycle
and do that weird thing where he's grabbing Mutt.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he does in that end of that school scene. And we can still bring the KGB in, but maybe it's like on their way home or something. Like he tells them about Marion. He's like, we should leave in the morning or something like that. They show
up in the middle of the night, and it's like Patriot game style. Siege on the house.
Yes. Yeah. Did you see Old Man and the Gun?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like completely dark, and there's people sitting there like waiting for So yeah, I like that, and that's what gets us into our story or whatever. Maybe they can have an escape. Our next set piece is like them escaping the house from these agents and like being on the run.
And then, Mac, what's nice is this suddenly we can use this to tie everything in better, like to make everything feel more rooted. When they're later captured by the Russians and they're at the Russian camp and Mac stumbles up to Indy after he's been like interrogated by Spalko. And he's like, Mac stumbles in and he's like, hey, you gotta look out for yourself. I'm Mac and boobity boobity. And instead he can, what if Mac has a family? He's like, look, I'm looking out for my family. Like, are you willing? Basically, he can say something that's so trailery and scripty, but like if you're loyal to one people, like you got to be willing, like nothing else matters, and you're willing to to like betray even your best friend if it means, like he's like all Walter White on him essentially, like taking care of my family. And so then that can set up later, like which one will it be? Indiana Jones, the girl or the boy? I'm a villain. Anyway,
the girl or the boy. We have 5 minutes left. Let's talk about
whatever we want.
Yeah, whatever you want. We got a good setup now. We got sort of like this is the heart of our characters. Do we bring Marion in
midpoint?
Is midpoint when it is in the movie that she?
I actually don't know when it is timing wise, but that's when Sean Connery comes in The Last Crusade.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe it's a similar thing where they rescue her from the Russians or something. I don't know.
Well, that's what they're doing. They're going to rescue her.
That's right.
Now.
Yeah.
So that's like she's the goal. So they would like basically they're catching up at the we got a little tricky thing here because the Russians are now looking for them while they're looking for Marion, who has
the goal for the Russians is to get Indy to help them solve the alien.
It's to find the last remaining skull. They're trying to take them all back to Akator. So such a cool name. So like they don't know that Oxley returned the skull back to Francisco de Orellana, to wherever he was searching for it in Peru.
We want to make the finale after he saves, I don't know, he would find a way to save both of them, basically, like Spider-Man. But to crank up this disaster movie aspect.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Do we want to just have the alien ending? Do we want to have just all like tons of UFOs instead of just one big?
We need a ticking clock.
Yeah. If it's like, if there's an alien threat looming or something like that, or where it's not just like they're trying to call the aliens, it's like they're trying to call one alien to call off the invasion. Like there's something like that.
Do you remember the movie 2012? I think it was the Roland Emmerich movie that was like, wasn't it that the Mayan calendar ends 2012? So what if there is an ancient like prophecy, or there's like inscribings, whatever that lead that there's certain date, whatever this movie, 1957. Yes. 1957. Sure was. And they like can interpret that to mean the nuclear bomb. They can interpret they can interpret it, whatever, but like they're taking it literally and believe that if these skulls aren't returned by this date, 1957, the world will be destroyed.
What if Indy's trying to take back the skull and Russian lady is trying to prevent it because she wants to welcome the destroyer of worlds to befriend them? So just like flipping the script just a little bit, just the motivation, but keeping the same kind of story there. And maybe
they don't find that out until they get Marion. And the three of them find out what the Russians are really doing. And that's when Mutt's the one who's like, well, we're going to have to like stop them, whatever. And Indy's like, kid, we have to get your mom to a safe place. And then they're like, you know what I mean? Like then they decide as a family, they have to take down, and they have to get this thing back.
They actually, all the UFOs enter and it's about to be like, they're about to destroy the world. Russian lady's like, take me, whatever. Like trying to talk to them. And then right at the last minute, like right before they're about to destroy the world, skull is placed. It does whatever. And they, leave the, whatever they take off and leave because the beacon has been called off or whatever.
It's got to be something dumb like Mutt's like, check out this trick, and he makes like a bowling ball disappear behind his jacket or something. And like they uses that trick. It's got to be some dumb like anticlimactic dumb like joke callback.
Yes, callback. Like the early on, he's showed that he's like he's trying to be a magician or something dumb, and and it works out at the end. He finally does it right.
Or when he was a kid, he wanted to be a magician. They can be talking about in some like
tell him that it was
fireside conversation. Like, so what do you want to do when you grow up? He's like, and he's talking, I don't know. Like I always wanted, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a magician. There's
I'm a Harvard professor, one of the best archaeologists in the world, and you want to be a magician. Like,
did you want to be a teacher when you grew up? Like,
Yeah, that's great.
I like our movie better than the original now.
Time to pitch your movie.
We got no wild cards this episode.
No wild cards, which might have helped us, but it might have thrown us off. I don't know. It is what it is. Season 2, it's all about the randomness of the wild.
Oh, we got to pitch this fast. I got 10 minutes.
Okay, let's pitch this movie. Here we go. She is a producer at Weekend Video. You might remember her from an episode a while back that I think is released called Salt and Pepper.
It killed us. That episode destroyed us. So we have no idea.
We have no idea. She's your favorite person on set, Miss Lindsay Detweiler.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Welcome back to the show. Yay, Lindsay.
I hope the other episode airs.
Yeah. Well, you gave us like a 27 out of 40, which I thought was a total victory based on the story of that episode.
Yes.
So today, we'd like to pitch you. I'll just give you the assignment real quick, and then Seth's going to dive in. Actually, I'll start this off and pass it off to Seth. We are pitching you a disaster movie. The tone is goofy. The target audience is fans of character-driven movies like you. And the studio mandate is actually time machine. Seth, describe what a time machine is.
So our time machine mandate is new to this season. Essentially, Ryan was already time traveling, so I met him there. He got ahead of me, but I accidentally stumbled into a time machine. When I came out, Kathleen Kennedy was standing there and said, "Seth, we need you to rewrite, we need you and Ryan to punch up this movie and make it better. We're shooting in 9 days. We have all the sets built. We have all our cast. We just need the script to be better. It needs to be doctored up and fixed. Can you help us?" That film is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So,
are you familiar with the fourth Indiana Jones movie?
I know who's cast in it.
Have you seen it?
I don't think I saw it.
Okay, but
you're gonna love this episode then, because we explain all of it.
We'll pitch you the sort of overarching story. We didn't have a wild card; it's just that, but we will be pitching you. And we actually changed the title. It's an alternate title: Indiana Jones and the Destroyer of Worlds.
Man.
It was one of the original titles, but basically we're following Indiana Jones, who it's now the 1950s. The last time we saw him was in the 30s, correct?
Let's say that. I think
post World War II. But we join Indiana Jones in the deserts of Nevada, and he is. You might have to help me out here, Seth.
We don't join Indiana Jones. We open the film. We're at a military base. There's a military convoy that's on their way out to this military base. Well, I just no-anded you, Ryan. Sorry. I just realized that.
Okay. I welcomed it. So.
I was like, actually, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull opens this way. No, we're at an American military base, and what appears to be American military convoy shows up and shoots everybody and takes over, and turns out they are Russians. Coming into this Nevada military base, one of the trunks of the cars opens up. This older guy's pulled out and thrown on the ground. The man gets up, puts his hat on. It's Indiana Jones. And the Russians are insisting. They're like, hey, there's some kind of artifact remains stored in this giant storage facility here that you have experience with. You were dragged out in the middle of the night one night and told to consult on this. So we need your help finding it. So Indy is forced to help them find what it turns out to look like these organic, possibly alien remains in this box, in this warehouse that, by the way, is the same warehouse where the Ark of the Covenant was stored at the Innovators.
Think of it like a big, weird-looking alien skeleton that is sort of. It doesn't look like your standard skeleton. It's like crystal, sort of. Think of
creepy.
And so he helps the Russians, but in classic Indiana Jones style, he's betrayed. He's sort of left for dead, and we find out. I'm just going to jump through this, Seth.
Do it.
He's in the middle of this desert. Is this suburban, beautiful 1950s suburban neighborhood, and we eventually find out that it's an atomic bomb testing site.
He stumbles upon this while he's trying to escape the Russians.
He's trying to escape, and so he's got like 20 seconds before this nuke hits this testing site. It's the classic atomic. I don't know if you're familiar with that sort of visual.
She's really into atomic bomb history. It's like her era.
But Indy's
Especially the clocks and sirens that would go off. That's her thing.
The only thing that he could think of to escape is to climb in this lead-lined refrigerator. So he hops in seconds before this nuke goes off. Nuke destroys the entire town. The fridge is sent, half a mile away, out of the range of this nuclear bomb, and it lands. And we're like, oh no, what happened? Camera pushes in. The fridge just stays closed. We hard cut to hospital room. Indy's like, every bone in his broken. His body, his body is broken.
It's a long recovery. We get this montage of him in this recovery, and he's alone in the hospital. Maybe cards or flowers are delivered, but like no friend, no family that really shows up because he never settled down. Right? He's Indiana Jones until
his son enters the room. Shia LaBeouf as Mutt Williams. We find out through exposition, through their conversations, that Indiana Jones and Marion, who is in Raiders of the Lost Ark, they have a little, a
little sex. Sorry, I'll say it.
I was going to say they're in love. Yes, they did have sex and had a child. We find out that Marion and Indy aren't really on good talking terms. Indy, just like his father was to him, not a great dad. Him and Mutt do not have a good relationship. Mutt is coming to Indy because Marion has been kidnapped by the Russians, and he needs Indy's help to go rescue Marion. We find out that, it's sort of this thing where...
Oh, I think it's important. They kidnapped Marion and Harold Oxley, Mutt's stepdad, who was also an archaeologist, an old friend of Indy's, who was looking for these crystal skulls that were supposedly in Peru, related to the Francisco Orellana, a conquistador who searched for them in Akator as well. Oxley was obsessed with them. Apparently the Russians were looking for those skulls as well, so that's why they kidnapped Oxley and his wife Marion. And so Mutt needs Indy's help to save his mom and his stepdad.
That gets complicated.
And so it's sort of our bulk of our story is sort of like an interesting sort of character study of Mutt and Indy's relationship. You have a father and son story. Around the midpoint is when they rescue Marion.
Oh, we should point out they don't get along. The meat of this is they don't get along, and it's really funny to watch them interact because
it's like goofy Shia LaBeouf with a grumpy Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford.
Indy doesn't like that he's now the old man of the in the story, like his dad was in Last Crusade. Mutt's the cool one. They're kind of one-upping each other. They're actually starting to bond and get along, but they're definitely like it's a back and forth at odds, like a dynamic roller coaster of a relationship. Then they do find the Russians. They find Marion around the midpoint, and then we discover something. Polly, I don't remember what it was.
We discover that there's actually a time clock, and we discovered that this alien skull that they found, the Russians are actually trying to prevent Indy and Mutt and them to return this crystal skull back to there's basically think of it like this ancient sort of underground thing that they find that has all these alien skulls.
Remember how there was this whole this deal about how the Mayan calendar supposedly ended in 2012?
Yeah.
So there's that kind of thing, but it's like this specific date, like in 1957, like it's implied that if the skulls are not returned to Akator, where they originated, they were taken by this conquistador Francisco Orellana and scattered about the earth. If they're not all returned by this date, the world will be destroyed, supposedly. And
by the destroyer of worlds.
And
okay.
So they realize Indy was just on this to save Marion, right? But it turns out the reason they kidnapped Oxley and Marion is because they are trying to prevent the skulls from being returned. Because Oxley was looking for these skulls because they want to destroy. And also the leader. Have we talked about we haven't talked about Cate Blanchett.
Cate Blanchett, who is the big bad, and she's Russian. She's actually telepathic.
Oh.
There's some weird stuff. Some goofy stuff in this movie.
We're doing like a pulpy B movie was the tone we're on.
And she feels like she's above humankind because she's sort of on another level mentally, has telepathic powers. She connects with these aliens because she believes that these aliens also has telepathic powers. She feels like she belongs to the aliens. So she's basically trying to prevent them so that she can meet this other species, this intergalactic species, and be welcomed into the fold. And basically she's like, destroy the world.
She's looking for a family. Yeah. Essentially looking for a family, which is the theme of our movie, is all about
family.
That just made me think of the Kristen Wiig character in Barb and
Star.
Yeah.
Yes, that level of sort of mustache twirling evil. Yes. Who's also just longing for a good relationship. Yeah, and she also makes suicides with her drinks.
So we're like leading up to this moment of like, that's like that Spider-Man 1 moment of like, who's it going to be? Is it, or, Indy has to decide who dies and who lives. Is it Mutt or Marion? Like Kate Blanchett puts him in that situation while like this alien, like just kind of to distract him while this alien invasion threat is looming and is about to happen. And the ships are all showing up and circling all these cities or whatever. And there's actually the way that Mutt saves all of them is through this jokey callback of earlier in the film. They were talking in Fireside about what Mutt wanted to be when he grew up. Like what even is Indy's job? Like how does a guy decide to grow up and be a teacher / grave robber, etc. And he's like, well, you do better, kid. What do you want to be when you grow up? He's like, I wanted to be a magician when I was younger. It's like, well, show me magic tricks. I don't remember any. He's like, just show me one. And he makes something disappear. Whatever he shows him, we want Mutt to use that then to return the skull back to the temple and save all of them. And in the end,
basically, there's a bunch of UFOs that show up, and it's like they're gonna destroy the entire Earth. No. Kate Blanchett's like, take me, like my people. She basically gets, a homing beam comes down on her, and she's like incinerated by these aliens.
Oh no!
And
she can't handle their power.
Yeah, she's about.
It wasn't meant for them.
Yeah, she's and they're about to destroy the world when Mutt returns the crystal skull back to the skeleton. It basically turns off the beacon, and all the alien ships like go back to space.
They go home a family.
Yeah, and they go home, and it ends at a wedding, maybe.
Sure.
Indy and Marion getting married. And just like the original film, we see Mutt about to pick up Indy's hat, and he's about to put it on when Indy takes it from him. It's on his head. And that is Indiana Jones and the Destroyer of Worlds.
Boom. All right. Scale of 1 to 10. How likely are you to see this movie?
I will give it wait. In this world this movie hasn't come out yet. That's how the time machine works.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, yeah, I'll say 10.
How likely are
Yeah.
Wow.
Like Indiana Jones.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend it to a friend? After you see it and it plays out the way that we described it.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I don't know why this back-to-back confused me.
This movie is the only Indiana Jones 4 that exists in the Writers' Room Game Show universe.
I'll give it a 9.
Okay, 9. Solid.
Adherence to assignment, be a disaster movie that's goofy for fans of character-driven movies.
And is Indiana Jones.
And is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Okay, now I'm just giving you guys too high of a score. Is that bad?
No,
but I would give it a 10. I would feel like, yeah.
Dude. Overall idea, quality, 1 to 10.
I'm going to give it a 10. But my one question is this like based off, like, did you guys just come up with this, or is some of this rewriting?
We reworked the original.
We took like a general plot and then rewrote it and tried to make it fit our assignment, and we tried to make it better because there's a lot about the movie that we didn't like. So we tried to, the original movie, the Mutt relationship, there's not that much there. Marion's not as much part of it. We tried to really.
We don't find out that Mutt's his son till halfway through. It's like saved as this thing. There's like, it's really convoluted. We saved for one like set piece. I think we lost one set piece the original movie had. Everything else structurally is the same in terms of locations and action set pieces. All the cast remains the same, and we just reworked the relationships and the emotional context of the story.
Yeah, that beefed it up. That was good.
Thanks.
I liked it. And
Thank
also,
you.
Seth, you seem to know a lot about Indiana Jones in that specific one.
Well, you've seen the first 3, right?
Yeah.
Because I've heard you talk about like Last Crusade. Like,
yeah. Talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I've seen
Lindsay's
the fourth one
always
more
talking
times
about
than
Indiana Jones.
than any humans have. I'm ashamed of it because
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our idea was better than the way they did it. I like ours a lot, actually. I'm glad you do too. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
This might have been our best score. This is actually our best score. So is that 39 points?
39.
39.
Indiana
That's going to be hard
Jones
to
and the
beat.
Destroyer of Worlds.
I don't know how we're going to beat it this season. We're so close to the perfect 40.
So close.
The Writers' Room Game Show with me, Ryan Paul, and Seth Worley. Executive produced by Grant Wakefield at Weekend Video and Ann Fogerty at Plot Devices. Edited to perfection by Rene Gomez. Our art is by your buddy, Meg Lewis, and our face-melting music is by Ben Worley. The Writers' Room Game Show is a Weekend Video production in association with Plot Devices. Learn more about Weekend Video at weekend.video and check out writersroomgame.show to listen to all of our episodes and suggest your own prompts for future shows. And don't forget to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts. It really helps our show out a lot. See you in the next one.